Welcome back. You know, this story just continues to write itself. The World Economic Forum, they keep coming up with crazy stuff. And once again, Klaus Schwab and the WEF, they found their way back into the headline, and they're in the news. Klaus told delegates at a conference in China this week that humanity needs to be, quote unquote, forced into collaboration with globalist entities. Yeah, that's how he said it. Speaking at the WEF's annual meeting of the new champions, which is often dubbed Summer Davos, it was in China. Schwab stated that in order to drive the fourth industrial revolution forward, elites must aggressively drive their agenda home. Schwab, the architect of the so-called Great Reset, well, he has, in recent years, he said that he envisions humankind transitioning into a new age where we will be a fusion of our physical, our digital, and our biological dimensions in a new world. Now, Schwab has previously declared that this new era of integration will mean that you don't even really have to have elections anymore. Oh, boy. He's also fantasized about humanity embracing brain implants and leaders having the capability to read everybody's brainwaves. Now, I've added this. I noticed this the last couple of weeks. He's not too far off, right? Scientists recently have merged human brain-like tissue with computer chips in order to help teach small robotic systems how to navigate obstacles as well as how to track and grasp items. That came out last week. That's true. There's also been articles about a robot that's got a face of lab-grown living skin created by scientists in order to make the human or the cyborg look more human. Wow, where does this go from here? And he's talking about it now. I'll bet my next guest has got something to say about it. Please welcome to the show, Rebecca Walser. Rebecca, thanks for coming on. Obviously, I saw that. I'm like, it's got your name all over it because it's crazy stuff, but it's not so crazy that it hasn't already kind of started to happen.
You know, this question is, Scott, is the human becoming a machine or is the machine becoming human? Which is it? But, you know, whenever anyone says, Scott, you know, we must force anything, your red flag should go up right there. The skin should be crawling right there, because when things are naturally evolving and innovating, you don't have to force it. It is the natural course of development. Now, some of his points aren't wrong, Scott, in fact, that, you know, things are going to become ubiquitous and AI needs to have some sort of foundational framework that the world needs to decide, not some globalist group out of Switzerland that they're not elected in any way. And yet these groups, this World Economic Forum is tremendously powerful. I mean, the Build Back Better, that was a WEF slogan that was sent out to multiple nations. That's why I was shocked when Joe Biden chose to run in 2020 on Build Back Better, because it was very clearly a WEF globalist slogan for the Great Reset. So this is all very shocking, Scott. But the fact is that we do already have technology. In China, the students are already wearing a headband that will light up red when their thoughts drift off from what the teacher is covering. That's already technology that's being used. So we do know that the technology exists where they can read our brain waves. We know that's true because we've seen on 60 Minutes the example of the guy just thinking and the Google search happening right in real time. So we do know the technology is there to read our thoughts. And that is what we're talking about, Scott. We must have some kind of document, agreement that says where we're going to keep AI from going, because it will take over. And we're very arrogant if we think we can build AI that's smarter than us, but yet we can still control it. And that is, in fact, the problem.
I think you just framed it up perfectly there. It's very arrogant to believe that you can make it smarter than you and still believe that you're in control. And I also, on a lighter note, I'm worried about if there was something on my head, if the light would ever go on, because I'm clearly not thinking enough. And number two is if I am thinking, I don't know if anybody wants to know what I'm thinking about. I might have to wear a lead helmet so that you can't really see what's going on, because that would be kind of dangerous. But I put in there in my monologue because I love technology, and when reading, and you just said it, you know, they have a brain-like matter that they've lab-grown brains and connected them to artificial intelligence chips and computers where they're, to me, that's just shocking. And I mean, it didn't really get a lot of headlines. And then the next day, you've got cyborgs in Japan that have human skin on their faces. Now, I don't know what to say about that. I mean, I'm halfway excited, halfway scared to death. And he's now referencing it, and then he puts the cherry on top by saying, and we won't even need to have elections. Can you believe that came out of anybody's mouth with any power like that?
Well, I mean, Yuval Noah Harari, which is their chief economist for the World Economic Forum, had said years ago that once you can read everyone's thoughts, there's no need for elections because, you can just vote in your head. This is ridiculous, right? You should be able to change your mind and put it on paper. I mean, you know what, Scott? Here's the bottom line of this whole situation. There's always a new frontier. There's always a new technology. There's a new thing that we're going into. I believe this is the final frontier. And why I say that is this is the merging of the human species with robotics and with artificial intelligence. And if we don't set our own parameters, it will be the end of the human race as we know it to be. And that is why we must have I'm not for global government in any way. And Klaus Schwab's way of making everything about stakeholders instead of shareholders, how they sneakily shifted people into stakeholdership versus shareholdership, which I reject and submit to that everyone in finance should reject that because it's not a fiduciary duty to maximize shareholder price if you're talking about stakeholders and not shareholders.
Right.
And that is a big, huge problem. So all of this we need to stop, and we need to have like months and time and planning to really figure out what is going to be the cap limit of AI, because if we don't do that, Scott, it's the final frontier of where humanity will go. It is.
I know, and it scared me reading it. I mean, maybe it can do some great things for healthcare, but either way, we need to slow our roll. I think that's what we have to do. All right, I appreciate you coming on. This had your name written all over it. Thank you very much, Rebecca, getting us off to a great start on a Monday. Thanks for being on the show. Rebecca Walser, come